Listen up, everyone. They've announced that the technical regulations are changing for next season. Now there's a risk a lot of our hard work could be undone if we're not careful, so let's figure out how to mitigate this. Drivers, take a look at the developments we have and let us know what you want to invest in protecting. Alright everyone, let's get on top of this.
Hey, what's up guys, R&D here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 57 today for the Singapore Grand Prix in Season 3. And as you can hear there, for the very first time now in our F1 2018 career mode, we've been handed an actual major rule regulation change and R&D reset. Of course, so far, we've had the reliability part of the R&D tree reset, but that doesn't really matter too much. But now, for the very first time, we're going to get a major shuffle up in maybe the pecking order, and indeed, obviously, the R&D tree. You can see here, it's going to be the aerodynamics and the chassis. Two major parts of the tree are going to be reset going into Season 4, and I'm so excited for it. It's the very first time, you know, I feel like I kind of almost got dealt a bad card of not having such a big R&D reset given to me for like 2 seasons now, whereas I know a few others definitely have done as early as Season 1, let alone Season 2. So really excited for what this could mean for Season 4 in terms of this is going to majorly shuffle things up. The engine department's going to stay put, so the way the pecking order is not right now with the engine department will stay the same. So, you know, here at McLaren will remain pretty damn good, and you can see the entire order will remain the same. But for chassis and aero, everything's up in the air now, because you have no idea how the AI are going to adapt their parts, how many parts they adapt, and you don't know how many parts I can even afford to adapt here at McLaren. Obviously, we have a set number of points already, and we're going to accumulate and save points as we go through this season, but there are just too many upgrades here that I can't save every single one. I'm going to have to pick and choose and cherry pick which ones I will be saving, but for now, I'm not going to deal with that, because I'm just going to save as many points as I can, because there's no time delay at adapting a part. So we're basically just going to go through the races for the rest of the season, saving up a whole of R&D points, and then towards the end of the season, you know, Brazil, Abu Dhabi, that's when we'll really decide what part we are resetting here. But really exciting times, because it does mean it's absolute confirmation in Season 4, the pecking order will change up quite dramatically, probably, with 2 whole departments resetting. You know, even one would have shaken things up a little bit, but the fact we've got chassis and aero, 2 major parts, it's hopefully going to make Season 4 just absolutely insane in terms of the things that change going into it. But that's the huge news then going into the start of this episode, but we go into then the Singapore Grand Prix, like I said here, for Season 3. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Italian Grand Prix, then be sure to check that one out before you see this one. But a bit of plateauing then at the top end between McLaren, Red Bull and Haas. Force India take a stride forward, as well as Renault and Toro Rosso, but Mercedes and Ferrari with Sauber and Williams. So off the back of what's been a pretty good string of races for Force India, Toro Rosso, and also Renault really have been getting in the mix as well. All 3 of those teams improving coming to the Singapore Grand Prix. Going to be interesting to see for myself, obviously. This time last season, Fernando Alonso was literally godlike around Singapore, and he dominated the race by about 40 seconds in the race, which is pretty crazy. So curious to see how things go this time around. Let's just go to the Saturday first, and first of all see how we are around 1 lap, and that's really where we might get the first inkling if Alonso is going to have any kind of god tier performance once again here at Singapore.
Welcome then to Marina Bay in a tough, bumpy street circuit that will test these drivers to their absolute limit. So sit back and enjoy the action here at the Singapore Grand Prix. This is the kind of track that eats rear tyres for breakfast, or so I'm told by more experienced drivers than myself.
No matter how good a driver is at managing their throttle application to limit rear slip, they can't always overcome a car that's inherently bad at looking after its rear tyres. Here we have a lot of low-speed corner exits, which means a whole load of energy, heat and tyre wear.
So diving straight to the end of Q1 then on our first and only flying lap, as we're going to get through into Q2. Thankfully, the car feeling pretty good around Singapore, as it kind of, you know, I assume would do, as it did really well in Season 2 for Alonso, like I mentioned there. So we do get through. It was quite close, P14 there, but at least we get through. I mean, it's the first lap there in qualifying. It's never going to be the thriller. Really, as we have shown before, we exponentially improve in Q2, and then hopefully Q3. If we get into that, let's just make sure we do that job as we go a little bit wide there on the left-hander in the middle of our first lap in Q2 then. The car definitely did feel a little bit understeer. I'm not too sure. I kind of compromised a little bit, maybe more downforce than I maybe did last time, in terms of I wanted a bit more straight line speed on the straight, just so we don't get stuck in any traffic potentially. But at the same time, here and there, as we went on through the session, it's almost like the track devolved in a way, and the track got less grippy which doesn't make any sense because usually it just gets more, faster and faster basically as the cars go round. The surface rubbers in, but to me it just felt worse and worse as we went on. But the lap time was still there, thankfully. So P10 in the end, pretty damn close actually. Perez definitely had opportunity to knock us out there. We know how fast the Force India has been in the past, but obviously Singapore, not a power circuit, obviously, and maybe not a circuit that Force India technically should go well at. So Perez unable to knock me out then. So we do go through into the top 10 shootout, where on our first lap we go across the line for P3 there momentarily. It's then down to P5 ahead of Pierre Gasly and Dan Ricciardo. Vettel at the moment pips us. Verstappen then goes fastest, to my surprise, by quite some margin. So in Q1 and Q2, Alonso, especially in Q2, Alonso was pretty much a second faster than second place in Q2. Now into Q3, Verstappen is nearly 7 or 8 tenths faster than Alonso, who's in P2 now. So the roles kind of reversed there, but very, very odd situation of pole man being so much further ahead than second place there. But at the moment we're P6 still, behind Sebastian Vettel, ahead of Pierre Gasly, trying to improve as much as we can though, but we scrubbed off some time here and there. Again, a little bit in Sector 1, lost it and then gained it back in Sector 3, so you can clearly see there with a bit of a late braking zone here and there and trying to wrestle the car through. But I don't know if you can tell there, but there was a lot of understeer feeling on that entire last sector. So we go through the last corner. It's not going to be a heap of time gained there. In the end, it will be P5 for us then, ahead of Sebastian Vettel. So I'm pretty happy with that. At least we pipped Vettel there. You can actually see pretty damn close qualifying in the mid part of the top 10. Obviously a huge gap from Verstappen to Alonso, which still baffles me completely. And then also Esteban Ocon and Hamilton did not bother even going out for some reason and not setting a time. So very odd qualifying session here, but it means that Alonso is on front row. I'm there in P5, so not too bad. Could have been, I think it could have been better for both me and Alonso. I was expecting Alonso to smash pole, to be honest, especially after Q1 and Q2, but there's been some very weird results in qualifying lately that you guys have noticed, so I'm not too surprised in the end. So let's just go into the race. We know the race pace should be pretty good, so I expect Alonso to be right up there attacking Verstappen, and myself, hopefully we can go forward rather than backwards, unlike the Italian Grand Prix. So let's go to the full grid then and see how we shape up.
As the sun sets over the South China Sea, the sport that never sleeps is alert and raring to go. Welcome, under the bright lights of the Marina Bay circuit, to another Singapore Grand Prix. It's a very long, very physical lap, this one, and really there's not much in the way of margin for error. So we have a bit of an endurance race for you tonight. The 3.1 miles of the Marina Bay street circuit wind its way around some of the iconic landmarks here in the heart of Singapore. 23 corners in total, 13 to the left and 10 to the right, making this one of the most technical circuits on the Formula One calendar, with just 47% of the lap taken at full throttle. Anthony Davidson joins me again for the race today. Now I want to ask you about Daniel Ricciardo. As ever, the threat of unreliability is never far away, and indeed they'll be starting out of position today due to a power unit component change. So it's going to be a difficult task to move forward from there.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be. It's about effective damage limitation.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Young superstar Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and it's Fernando Alonso in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Magnussen, the engineer, Sebastian Vettel, and Gasly, Hartley, Ocon, Perez, and Carlos Sainz. Grosjean, Ricciardo, they've taken a grid penalty. Kimi Raikkonen and Hülkenberg, Leclerc, Bottas, Marcus Ericsson, and Sergei Sorokin. Stroll and Lewis Hamilton rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Right, so here we are on the grid then for the race, and we're actually up into P4 now with Dan Ricciardo being hit with a grid penalty ahead of us there, so elevated 1 positions, that's pretty damn good. And so on the race strategy is going to be a pretty straightforward 2-stop then, the Hypersoft tire to 2 sets of Ultras. That should be fine. The tyre wear levels now for the entire grid really should be, a case of we can all avoid the hardest compound of tyre. We can stay on these 2 softest compounds, the Hyper and the Ultra. That shouldn't be a problem. Obviously, Singapore being Singapore, there probably is a high chance of a safety car probably, so I'm going to reduce the fuel a little bit and can bank on there being one. If there's not, we might have to do some fuel management here and there, but I'm not too worried about that as well, because I think we can handle it, and the car seems to save fuel quite fast when we put it in standard mixture anyway. So here we go then to 5 red lights. We're directly behind our teammate Fernando Alonso here for the Singapore Grand Prix. The fire lights are out, and we're underway for 31 laps, one of the longest races on the F1 calendar. And it's a great start there for Kevin Magnussen around the outside of turn 1. Alonso, they lock wheels a little bit as we just about defend from Pierre Gasly. It was a great start there, and the Frenchman, the Toro Rosso, is up ahead of the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel. So a great start there for Gasly. Magnussen, meanwhile, is really hounding Alonso and trying his best to squeeze out of the Spaniard for P2. Meanwhile, Verstappen's had a very clean getaway from pole position, but Alonso on the left-hand side to the inside for the next left-hand of that big braking zone at the end of this kind of back straight, and he's going to keep P2 where it looks like Magnussen tried his best, but it's going to be down back to 3rd place, where he ultimately started on the grid. And Gasly right behind me, so that Toro Rosso, after overtaking the Ferrari, is looking pretty damn punchy, I must say. So we'll have to take a look at that. The Toro Rosso, taking leaps and strides in recent races, and is looking stronger and stronger as we go on through the season. But Verstappen obviously sets a purple lap time as we enter lap 2. Obviously, he's the leader. He would do as Magnussen there, you can see, locking up into turn 1. So that put me off a little bit there, because I was worried he's going to brake check me, so I had to lift off and maybe not get the best run ideally that I wanted to get. But now on the back straight, can we do anything with overtake mode on ERS? No DRS quite yet, but you can see with a lack of DRS we're gaining, but it's not going to be quite enough to make a dive ultimately there. I just need that DRS. I think that would be the biggest difference there on that straight. But of course it gets activated on this next lap then, so we're still hustling and harrying Magnussen now and keeping the pressure on him, letting him know we're in the mirrors there. And through the last corner actually we go on to the 3rd lap now as Alonso goes purple. So finally the McLaren pace is starting to show, and here we go now around the outside as Magnussen locks up. We're avoiding action there. Magnussen nearly completely ploughed into us and took us off wide anyway, so we'll take avoiding action. Gasly now has gone down the inside there as we took the escape road, and I didn't floor the throttle on the escape road route there, because if I did, I would have gone a legal overtake on Magnussen. So I lifted off to keep the position for him in 3rd and myself in 4th, but in doing so I went too slow and I let Gasly through there, so that's really not worked out in my favour. But I mean, that's all Magnussen locking up into turn 1. If I'd carried on, I either would have maybe just about made the pass, but I was more afraid of losing a bit of front wing with Magnussen just kind of chopping him off. And now you can see as we go on through the next lap then, that's Verstappen in for an early pit stop. Alonso now takes the race lead. Magnussen now up into P2, Gasly P3, and so we've now got to try and re-overtake the Frenchman. But you can see on that rear end there, really stepped out as we look through. The tyre wear is not too bad, but the inner compound of my tyres are heating up a little bit there on the heads-up display, and actually need to maybe back off a little bit to let the temperatures cool down, because that definitely is a case this circuit more than any other circuit. I feel that if you let that inside carcass temperature warm up too much at Singapore, the back end just steps out so much. It's just impossible to control. And you can see by lap 5, the pace has really dropped off here. We're really trying to protect these tyres now, because we need to try and go long enough in this Grand Prix to actually pit in for those ultras. We got yellow flags up ahead for some reason. I think on the top left it's Alonso that I think is retiring from this Grand Prix. He's now below me on the left-hand side there, so I think even though his car's still going on track, I think that's my teammate out of the Singapore Grand Prix. That is such bad luck for Alonso. That's so unlucky. So unlucky. Alonso out of the Singapore Grand Prix. He was leading there. Obviously, Verstappen had already pit, but Alonso had a very good chance of battling Verstappen at least for the win, or even getting into the lead outright. And now he's out of the Grand Prix, and this is how it happened then. Just a full-on engine failure. So that's really not on, and that's like 2 DNFs now for Alonso in this season with a flat-out engine failure. Of course, he's had a few other minor niggles here and there, but 2 out-and-out DNFs here, and obviously we know the player's not going to get a DNF like this. So that's why I was saying in a video like a week or so back that it's quite frustrating, to be honest, from my side, to see my teammates especially getting so much bad luck in terms of reliability, because I can never get the same sort of bad luck in a way, and so that's gonna hand me some free points. Although, to be fair, at the end of the day, I can't complain too much in terms of it makes my life easier, but obviously the challenge a little bit is taken away. But now, as always, we're going to try and do the best job we can and try and get the victory, basically, that Alonso might have deserved here in this Grand Prix. We'll try and fly the flag like we did the French Grand Prix and try and do that. So we're in for a pit stop then onto a set of ultra-soft tyres. We come in at the same time as Magnussen and also the Toro Rosso, I think that was, or maybe the other Toro Rosso, I can't quite actually tell. Yeah, no, the Toro Rosso's come in, not Gasly. I think that's Brendan Hartley that's coming behind us then. So I think Gasly's maybe continued on for one more lap, potentially trying to make a bit of an overcut work, maybe in some clean air, as we definitely don't hit some clean air, because Vettel now has just managed to go side by side with on the exit. He's actually got us maybe for some pace there. A little bit of contact made as he squeezes us towards the left-hand side, and Vettel has overtaken us. So we have hit some traffic here, so probably a good idea from Gasly to stay out and not hit the traffic. And so now we're going to have to try and re-overtake Vettel with slipstream DRS. We pull to the left-hand side to the inside for that left-hander. Vettel, those squeezes means the apex. Bit of contact made there, and Vettel's still there on the exit. Ricciardo's also trying to pop his nose in there, and it's side by side between Brendan Hartley and I think Sergio Perez in the background there at the Force India. So a great little scrap going on though with Vettel still at it side by side. Vettel just about makes it through. More contact made. It really is getting a little bit frosty with potentially my future teammate, remember, in Season 4. So that's one to maybe remember, and maybe you need to back off a little bit from Vettel, not give him such a hard time, but I really wanted to get that overtake done. But fair play to Vettel. He put up a very good defensive drive there for 2-3 corners there on the outside, you know, managing to keep the car afloat mid-apex. But no, now onto lap number 7. It should be pretty much a done deal eventually, I would think, against the Ferrari, because McLaren on paper is a much better car, but a lock up on the front left, and Vettel once again is doing a great job on the outside to just, he keeps on pinching me enough into the apex where he can actually get better traction than me, and he's still there, even though despite me now squeezing him into the very next apex. So literally I try his own tactic against him, and right there it has actually worked out. Fair play. So actually Vettel's tactic was a successful one, because I tried it on himself and it did work. But now Ricciardo has come out of nowhere, the dive bomb on the inside there, more on the outside this time around once more. And now Vettel might still be there on my inside. We got a little bit deep, and while we've been caught, there's been contact with Ricciardo on my left rear, and Ricciardo's slamming to the wall, and he's out. He's out of the Singapore Grand Prix, and there's a full safety car called out because of that. And so what did I say? A safety car is pretty much guaranteed at the Singapore Grand Prix. But I think there's a bit of contact made between myself and Ricciardo, because on the wheel it felt like I think Ricciardo's front tyre got locked onto my rear tyre, so I think that almost dragged me into the wall, but it did actually drag Ricciardo into the wall. Meanwhile Vettel was free to go down the inside and just slip back through. But this was the great little move we made around the outside, pinching him towards the apex, allowed us to get the run. It also allowed Ricciardo to get the run though, and Vettel, and he used the double toe basically. He got a toe off Vettel, then got a toe off me. DRS, look at that, nearly 3 wide there, and 5 cars so close to one another. And then Ricciardo's still on my left hand side, I'm in the middle. Vettel tries it down the inside there, and you can see there my wheel, my left rear gets caught on Ricciardo's front right there, and so that's why I went nearly steaming into the barrier myself. Luckily I didn't, but Ricciardo did, unfortunately for him, and so he's out of this Grand Prix, and a full safety car got called out. And here, unfortunately for me, Hülkenberg benefits from the safety car, gets a free pit stop, and gets out ahead of me in between myself and Vettel. So that's one more car I have to overtake now as we go green with lap number 9. So even though the safety car has come out, we've still got 2/3 of this Grand Prix to go. So it really is a very long Grand Prix indeed, and you can see they're wrestling with the car because the tyre heating is so pathetic on the exit of the safety car period. So it's so hard to get temperatures, even though literally it says I've got temperature on the tyres there on the right hand side, but I really don't. I can feel it in my wheel. I don't have much temperature, but we still make a move around the outside of the Renault there. Obviously the downforce levels compared to the Renault much better in the McLaren, so a really nice sweet move on the outside of Hülkenberg there. And now can we get a run on Vettel? No DRS yet. Remember, it has to get reactivated after the safety car period, but Vettel's got his own issues because Lance Stroll locks up there. So the Williams, the young Canadian guy, is going to block myself and Vettel here. As meanwhile, his teammate, Sergei Sorokin, has a very realistic moment here. He's really defending quite hard, just like he did in the real-life 2018 Singapore Grand Prix. Sorokin really defending hard from Charles Leclerc and the Force India there, Sergio Perez I think that is, as we now try and pull off a very tasty move around the outside of Sebastian Vettel there into the Singapore sling. That's a very unorthodox pass to make, but we made it work on the outside of Vettel. Brilliant stuff. And now we can try and close up on Lance Stroll, and oh my god, look at that! Sorokin was defending from Leclerc so hard, the Russian nearly slammed Leclerc into the wall there on the hairpin, and so it was 3-1 on the exit momentarily between the Force India, but they're still at it hammer and tong. Leclerc on the right, Sorokin to the left hand side. He's going to squeeze Leclerc, he's going to squeeze him right to the wall, and he's out! Leclerc's out of the Singapore Grand Prix. That's unbelievable. We've overtaken Stroll in that mayhem there, but Sorokin has literally just slammed Leclerc into the wall and run him out of road. We're looking back on board with a replay. Absolutely phenomenal and crazy erratic driving for the Russian. Oh my god. He did definitely not give him enough room there. I mean, albeit I know it almost looks like a bit of a kind of cause and effect of Leclerc also being that wide there, but Sorokin definitely had so much more room on the left to give, and so he completely take him out of the race. So I'm surprised there's no safety car for that as well, because you know, obviously it's a street circuit, but nonetheless, Charlie Whiting doesn't think so. And so now we're trying to make a move on Sergio Perez around the outside in the same place we did on Hülkenberg. Didn't work out. We even tried down the inside of that right-hander, which is a very weird place to try and overtake, but it doesn't work for us again. And then look at this, the Force Indy car, without DRS to help me, that Force Indy car is actually still faster than this McLaren, despite all the engine upgrades and drag reduction upgrades. Kind of just shows you how good the Force Indy car is on a baseline level, really. In terms of straight line speed, that car is just always going to be pretty good in straight line. And now we see on lap 12 there, side-by-side moment between the Williams and Force India. Perez round the outside, and we're going to do the same thing on the next corner there. The Russian very slow mid-apex there. Soft tyre v the ultra softs, and I assume that the Russian's been on those tyres since the beginning of the Grand Prix, so probably a lot of tyre wear there. So a pretty easy move actually on the outside of that right-hander, and now we'll be on the back of Sergio Perez. And can we actually make a move on the outside in the place where Perez squeezed Ocon into the wall as real-life Singapore Grand Prix in 2018? We make a move, and we're going to try and make it stick. DRS open. Even with DRS, though, Perez is still giving us a good run. Look at that. The amount of straight-line speed on the Force India is actually ridiculous, but look at that. We squeeze him to the apex, and then we go back to the racing line, tuck in, and take a bit more momentum into the corner. We're able to get up into P7 then, and Bob's your uncle. And now we've got a couple of people in the pit lane now, so we'll be up into, I think that's going to be P5, P4 actually. And so Raikkonen is, I think, up ahead in P3. Magnussen is P4, but now by the time we get up into lap 18, it's Magnussen in P3 because Raikkonen's already pit then. And so me and K-Mag come in at the same lap on lap 18 for a set of ultra soft tyres to the end of this Grand Prix. So it looks like we're around 4th or 5th place, depending on where Raikkonen filters out here if he gets hit with traffic. So I think it was Raikkonen, Magnussen, and then at this moment in time, I don't know who's in 1st and 2nd. I want to say it's the other Haas of Grosjean, and I don't know who's in 1st place. It might be Verstappen, actually, because obviously we haven't seen Verstappen since the very beginning of this Grand Prix, actually. He's actually been a ghost in this race. I haven't actually, obviously, we know his teammate Ricciardo's out of the Grand Prix. I don't know whether Verstappen filtered out in the safety car period. We'll have to kind of see how that kind of filters out later, but we're now on towards lap 20. 11 laps to go in this Grand Prix then, so that second kind of phase of the Grand Prix has flown by. Now we're easily past Hamilton then. The Mercedes so piss poor into turn 1, able to get it really quite fast around him, and now we close up on Marcus Ericsson, a bit of a trade with him, Bottas, and then it's Raikkonen up ahead then, and then I would say Kevin Magnussen. So now get a big dive bomb then on the Swede, down the inside of the hairpin, go a little bit wide on purpose, trying to squeeze him out there. It's a drag race then to the next line, Sauber v McLaren, and Ericsson doing a fantastic job, to be fair, to keep his nose in there, but on the outside, on the exit, we'll get it up into P7, and next up, a train of Valtteri Bottas, Kimi Raikkonen held up behind a Williams car, I think, so I think that's Sorokin once again in this Grand Prix, and then I think the car just ahead of him up the road is Romain Grosjean, as Magnussen set to fast up the Grand Prix, and tells you how far ahead he is of this entire train, because that's when he crossed the line to set a purple lap time. So at the moment we're P7, hopefully it could be, you know, 6.54 by the time we reach the end of this lap, maybe, if Raikkonen gets held up enough by that Williams car, because here we go now on Bottas there, fake to the left, go to the right, still a bit of a dummy there, because I did definitely think about going down the inside, but instead we do an identical move to one we did on Hamilton pretty much on the outside of turn 1, and we catch right back up to the Russian. And could we make another pass on the outside? This would just be a bit embarrassing here for the Williams car, but we do it, the exact same pass we did on Sorokin previously. We do it again, but this time around the difference is the Williams car's got DRS, I think, off the Ferrari, so he does pretty damn well actually to keep up with me down that little straight with the kink, and on the inside though, under braking, we get that move done, and now we'll try and catch up to Kimi Raikkonen, who's in P4, Grosjean P3, and ooh, looks like Kimi's gone slow. There's an issue for Raikkonen as Pierre Gasly sets the fast up the Grand Prix, and Raikkonen is well, seemingly retiring maybe from this Grand Prix. Only 15 runners left in this race. Very bit of a bloodbath, I was guessing I was going to try and say. On lap 23 now, we close up to Romain Grosjean, but that was one easy pass then on the Iceman, and now down the inside of Frenchman for a podium position up into P3, and so Magnussen's in P2, but you saw there momentarily whilst Raikkonen was retiring, Pierre Gasly set a fast up the Grand Prix, and so dare I say, I think Pierre Gasly is in the lead of this Singapore Grand Prix in the Toro Rosso Honda. Yep, you don't need to check your speakers. I said that. You heard me correctly. Pierre Gasly in the Toro Rosso Honda is leading a Grand Prix at the moment, and he's actually going to take this through right to the end because he's got a big enough gap to Magnussen, and that Toro Rosso in the hands of that Frenchman is absolutely flying there. Magnussen P2, very comfortable for him. A lot further back, we're in P3, still trying to just make sure we stay ahead of Grosjean. Grosjean, to be fair to, even though I overtook him very easily, he was keeping up with me and keeping me honest, but then by the end of the Grand Prix, I waltz away from him, and he gets overtaken by Esteban Ocon, and so in the end, I come through for P3. It's a good podium, I will take that, but a very bizarre Grand Prix ending, but a fantastic result then. GG's to Toro Rosso Honda and Pierre Gasly for the win at the Singapore Grand Prix.
Nice work, you did well today. I think the boss will be happy with that one.
A great win then for the Toro Rosso team today. And I have to wonder, Anthony Davidson, just what set them apart from the competition here.
A reliable car, that was the most important factor here. This was a real battle of attrition, and you could tell those at the front were trying to find a balance between running their outright pace and taking care of the car to reach the end.
And it's time now for the podium celebrations, and how well deserved is this one? This is a team all about giving talented young drivers an opportunity to race and to win. Toro Rosso are your winners here today.
We said that the Monaco Grand Prix on the F1 2018 game is just a guaranteed hectic result and just bonkers podium. I think Singapore started turning into that because we had the alien-like performance last season of Alonso. By 40 seconds he won, and then Pierre Gasly here gets the win in the Toro Rosso. Crazy, and his team actually did really well as well. Britton Hartley P6, so the Toro Rosso in general performed really well around the Singapore Grand Prix circuit. So GG's to the entire team really. But for us, obviously, with the retirement of Alonso, like I said, it's a shame for him and really unfortunate in terms of the championship fight is being taken away from Alonso a little bit. It is now a 50-point gap there, but for me, that's good work for us. It means we're a bit more comfortable now going into the next couple of rounds where we're not going to be spending any R&D points. Remember, trying to save up enough for the R&D resets and trying to, adjust parts for next year's car. But you can see the constructors, we still do okay, get a few points over Red Bull. Obviously, with Ricciardo out, all I had to do was beat Verstappen. Now I'd still win points for McLaren, so that's all good. But Toro Rosso now move ahead of both Sauber and Mercedes. Mercedes overtake Sauber actually, so they stay in the same place. Sauber essentially just swap positions with Toro Rosso effectively there. But, good on Toro Rosso. And actually, if Sauber have another, good race like they have done before, they're capable of it, we could soon see Mercedes actually literally in the bottom two, which would be quite something. But we're going to go on to now the F1 interview questions with Claire and then round out the episode.
Amazing performance out there. You must be really happy. Everything went your way today. It looked like you had a really good strategy for the race.
Just going to compliment the chassis on this side here about the tyre management, because especially on that last stint, and actually, to be fair, the middle stint as well, those tyres went really long, and so it's a good chassis moment for the car.
Do you think you were lucky not to end your race with that crash?
I think she means the Ricciardo incident, and I was lucky to not end it with a crash, but I'm going to go with no comment anyway, just to not, really piss anyone off in this situation.
Well, thanks anyway.
So Claire's left a little bit disappointed, but that's how sometimes those things go. And so we are beating Fernando Alonso at the moment in this rivalry. Just realised I need to pick a rival here on the right hand side. So I'm going to pick Sebastian Vettel in the end. It makes sense. Obviously, I'm trying to prove that I do deserve the Ferrari seat. Obviously, we've got that pre-contract kind of in place that will be going there pretty much guaranteed now at this point, because there's no way Ferrari are winning the Constructors' Championships, and I have a contract effectively already written up there. But, it makes sense to pick Vettel there as another rival. But obviously it's 2-1 with Alonso, so if I can get this rivalry done, it'll be 2-2 and be a very equalised teammate relationship here with Fernando Alonso, so that'll be really good. But if you guys did enjoy that episode, then smash the like button, if anything, for that crazy win for Pierre Gasly. Then let me know in the comments below what you thought. If you're new around here, do get subscribe for weekly F1 content. Guys, if you did miss any of the previous episodes, be sure to go check those out if you did miss them, because I don't know, for some reason, I think the last two episodes have just dropped in views compared to the previous one. I don't know what went on. I know know I missed one day of uploading on like Sunday, and then suddenly it looks like just YouTube decided to kill off the entire thing and just drop it in views. So guys, if you did miss those videos, be sure to check those out. I'm sure if you got to the end of this one, you have seen them, but just in case if you didn't, there were 2 videos uploaded in the last 2 days for career mode. So just in case, you never know. Sometimes YouTube has funny moments like that. But anyway, I've been Aarava. I'm Josh today. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.